It was supposed to be a quiet drive home, just a simple trip down an empty highway. But when their car suddenly broke down in the middle of nowhere, Jake and Sarah had no idea they were about to face something far worse than a mechanical failure. Strange noises, shadowy figures lurking in the darkness, and the feeling that they were being watched by something not quite human. They thought they could escape, but some things don't let you go that easily. Will they survive the night, or will the shadows claim them? Jake and Sarah were returning from a weekend getaway when their car suddenly sputtered and stopped on a desolate highway. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, leaving the surroundings in an unsettling darkness. The silence was oppressive, as if the world was holding its breath. The trees on either side of the road creaked like old bones. "Jake, can you turn the music up? It's too quiet," Sarah said nervously. Jake glanced at her, then reached to adjust the stereo. But before he could, the car's lights flickered, and the engine died. "What the hell?" Jake muttered, trying to restart the car, but it refused to start. "Great, now what?" Sarah asked, her voice rising with panic. The road was empty. No lights, no houses, just endless darkness. "I'll check the hood," Jake said, unbuckling his seatbelt. Jake stepped out. The cold air hit him hard as Sarah locked the doors and stayed inside, scanning the surroundings. As Jake checked under the hood, he heard a low scraping noise, like nails dragging across gravel. It came from somewhere in the distance. It wasn't natural, and it sent a chill down his spine. He froze, looking into the darkness, sensing something watching him. "Sarah," Jake called out, his voice tight. "Stay inside the car. Lock the doors." "What's going on?" Sarah's voice trembled. Jake slammed the hood shut and rushed back to the car, his senses on high alert. He jumped into the driver's seat and locked the door. "Did you hear that?" Sarah asked, wide-eyed. Jake nodded, his heart pounding. "We need to get out of here." "But the car won't start," Sarah pointed out, panicking. "I'll try again," Jake said, trying the ignition once more. The car sputtered and finally roared to life. But the eerie scraping noise was still in his head, and it was getting closer. Before they could leave, something dark and fast dashed across the road in front of them, just outside the headlights. Jake slammed on the brakes. The car came to a screeching halt. "What was that?" Sarah gasped. Jake squinted into the darkness. The figure was gone. It had moved too fast, too unnaturally. It wasn't human. "Stay here. Lock the doors. I'm going to check it out," Jake said. But Sarah grabbed his arm, her face filled with fear. "No, Jake. Something's wrong here. We need to leave." But Jake didn't listen. He stepped outside, scanning the road. The wind howled, but there was no movement. The silence was deafening. "Jake, please," Sarah begged from the car. "Come back. We need to go." Jake hesitated. Something didn't feel right. He turned to head back to the car, but in the corner of his eye, he saw it. A tall, thin figure standing just beyond the trees. Its limbs twisted unnaturally, and it was staring right at him. His heart raced as the figure vanished into the darkness. Jake rushed back to the car, breathing heavily. "Did you see that?" he gasped. It wasn't human. Sarah, pale and trembling, nodded. "We need to leave, Jake. Now." Jake tried the ignition again. Nothing. The car was dead. "Why is this happening?" Sarah cried, her voice cracking. "We can't just stay here." A low, guttural growl echoed from the trees, sending vibrations through the car. Sarah clung to Jake's arm, panic overtaking her. "Jake, please." "I can't take this anymore," she whispered. Jake looked around, fear in his eyes. We need to run. We need to go now. Suddenly, the car shook violently. Something massive moved underneath it. The sound of claws scraping against the metal filled the air. Then, from above, something tapped on the roof. Slow, rhythmic, as if whatever it was wanted them to know it was there. They weren't alone. Whatever it wasn't going to let them go. In that moment, they realized the truth. Whatever was out there wasn't just watching. They were hunting. And escaping wasn't an option. The shadows weren't just surrounding them. They were waiting. And in the dead of night, they were closing in.